Today, what we're going to do basically is to give an overview of what is going to take place in your next class, which is Network Management 1. And one of the main criteria of that class, you would have to know what you call subnetting, right? I sometimes like to refer to it as IP subnetting, but we're going to be doing subnetting on the IP version 4, right? Numbering scheme. Now, if you can remember the last time we spoke about place values in terms of binary representations of numbers. Remember that, right? Right, so we talk about place values. So these are our place values here in terms of the bit representation: 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and 128. And if you recall, remember we showed that 2 to the power of 0 would give you 1, 2 to the power of 1 give you 2, and then 2 to the power of 2. And we went right up to 2 to the power of 3, and 2 to the power of 4, 2 to the power of 5, 2 to the power of 6, and then 2 to the power of 7. Right? That gives us our 8-bit representation in terms of our place values, which is very important that we need to know this, especially when it comes to subnetting. Now, the last time we spoke about was truth tables, how the router interprets, right, what network that specific subnet is on, or that specific computer or IP address is on specifically. So we're looking at this number 192.168.3.55/24, right? And what we mean by /24 is basically we're talking about like 24 ones now on the subnet mask now. Remember we spoke about that before, right? So essentially the subnet mask for this, and we're going to look at it, will be 255. Right? And you all could talk to as well, 255.255.0, right? So I'm just going to take off these place values. I'm going to put it back up afterwards. So essentially, if we convert all this to binary, right, which we're going to do, the 255 first, the subnet mask or the net mask, this will be a couple of how much ones? 32 ones, right? So they're not basically 32 ones, but 24 ones in this case, and the zeros, 8 zeros, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then followed by a dot because it's dotted decimal notations, right? Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we have a couple of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, right? So this is all this is what you call the subnet mask here in binary representation. Now, we're going to work out the binary for this IP address here now, 192.168, right, .3.55 in this case, right? So you will have, what will be the conversion for 192 in terms of the place values, right? So the place values, again, is 128, 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, and 1, right? Correct is right? Right? So you have 128, 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, and 1. You can letter in if you wish now. Right? So how do we arrive at the first octet in this case now? Right? 192. We put on the first one, which is 128. Right? And the last time we was looking at 192 minus 128 will give us how much? Right? 64, right? Right? So we put on this next one here, which is this 64 here. So we take off the rest. So this here basically is the binary representation of 192. Right? Let's work out this one here, 168. What will be 168 in this case here? We would 168 is more than 128. So we're going to put on this first one. So we minus that, which will give us less than 64. What is that? The difference between 168 and 128. So we know that this one is going to be off, right? And we will put on the 32, right? That was the difference now between the 32 and we're supposed to know this already because we did the binary conversion already. So we'll take off the this one here and we put on the 16, which will give us 168 here, and we take off the rest, right? Cool? 3 now is easy in terms of the place values. You just put it on the first and the second in this case here. So all this is off, right? And we put on this one here. So for those who are watching this video for the first time, we have already touch on the binary representation. So this is just an advanced version of the class in terms of the place values. Hence the reason why the class could just automatically calculate this thing in their head. But if you wish, feel free to watch my first video, right, showing you how to do binary conversion and so on. But we just want to move forward a little bit in terms of the handling process here. So the 55 now, we know that it would not be 128 in terms of this place value. So this will be off, right? This one here would also be off. We will put on this one here because it's 32, right? And the difference between 55 and 32 will give us this one which will be the 16, right? This one will come off too as well, which would be the 8, and we put on the other 3. All right, so this is supposed to give us 55. Anybody check it to make sure it is correct? Right? So that gives us the 55 there, right? Cool? So far? So again, the last class we spoke about the process of ANDing using the truth tables. And remember what was the truth tables in terms of the ANDing process? Anybody want to tell me what was the truth tables in terms of the ANDing? If you can remember, where there's a true, right? And the true gives us a true. Where if there's a true and in a false is equal to a false. Wherever there's a false and in a false equal to a false. And wherever in this case a false and in a true, which I should have just probably did it before, is give us a false. And this is how the router would use this process of ANDing in order to get the network address. All right, so just bear with me for a little while because I just want to make sure that you all understand this whole concept first before we get into the heart of subnetting now. So when we AND this table here, what do we get? Right? So this would be, this one will come on, and a 1 and a 0, this is going to give us a off in this case here, because 1 and 1 in this case. Then we see 1 and 1 coming on here according to the ANDing process. Right? This one is off. This one is on as well. This one is off. This one is on. Off and off. So far, so good, right? And we're seeing a relationship here, right? Where this one comes, it's all off here, but the last 2 is on because they're ANDed together, right? And then we're seeing all zeros down the bottom here. So in this case now, everything here would be off. So the network address for this network here, 192.168.3.55 and a /24 would be basically 192.168.3.0, right? And this is what you call classful in terms of the /24 now. So in this case, this would be a network address. And what would be your broadcast address, right? In this case, remember we talk about the concept of broadcast address. The broadcast address would be 192.168.3.255. Right? So this is your network address. This is your broadcast address looking at /24 classful. Right? And .55 would be what you call a usable host. Right? In this case. Right? So what if now, right, that this /24 now moves to a /28. Right? It will be different now in this case. Totally different. Right? We could still interpret what is the network number here by going through the binary representation and so on. But before we do that, we want to backtrack in terms of understanding what is the different types of classful, right, networks that is available now. At this case now, before we get into what you call the concept of magic number. All right? So I'll just take off this. All right, and I'm going to write up something here for you all, showing you all what is the classful address. So basically, class C will be 255.255.255.0, which gives us a class C address. Class B will be 255.255.0.0, that will give us a class B. And most of your exams, especially for those who want to do these Cisco CCNA tests now, the industrial exam, they're going to be asking a lot of questions on these two subnets basically now. Right? So it's 255 here in this case, .0.0.0 would give you a class A. Right? You understand? So in this case here, when this was a /24, right, which is class C, this number 192.168.3.55, the 192 represent the network portion. This here will represent as well as the network portion. This here also represented the network portion, and this portion here is represented as the host. Right? So by tracking again in /24, we know in this case here, which we said earlier, so I'm just going to take off this here before we get on to the magic number. 192.168.3.0 is the network address or the network number, right? 192.168.3.255 is the broadcast address, and usable host will be from what number? 1 to 254, right? This would be your usable, well, your host, I should say now, in this case. All right? Cool? So far, so good? Right? So, what if now we want to borrow some bits in this one here? Right? Using the same example here too as well. Right? I'm just going to change this to one that you're familiar with, .1.55, right? In this case now. And let me just assume that this was a /26. What do you mean by /26? Let's work out these, let's convert it into binary, right? Let's do it. Let's find out what you mean by /26, which is basically 26 ones, right? So it's not 24. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, dot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, dot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, dot. So this is 24, we know that, right? 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we just borrowed 2 bits, right? Basically, we just borrowed 2 bits. So our subnet mask would no longer be classful. It will be classless, right? So if you also add up all this number here, this will be 255, right? 255.255. And because we borrow these 2 here, which is 128 and 64, this will give us a .192. Check it out, right? Same place values going straight across now. Same place values. Let me just put it in red here. Same place values, right? 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. So 128 plus 64 gives us 192, right? Now the good thing about this is that this last borrowed bit here is what you call the magic number, right? So we're just going to assume, we're not assume, we're going to say that this is the magic number. The magic number is the last borrowed bit, which is 64. So you're going to find out what this whole concept of magic number is, right? In terms of subnetting. Why it is that we would want to use this whole concept of the magic number to find out, you know, a couple of networks and so on, or how much networks this subnet will be able to take. All right? So before I even move on by saying what the whole purpose of the magic number, if you realize that we borrowed 2 bits going across here. So basically, I could say 2 to the power of this 2 here, right? Because I borrowed 2 here would give me how much? Right? 4 networks, right? So I'm supposed to get 4 networks here. So my usable host would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this would be 2 to the power of 6 is how much? Somebody work out that quickly for me. Right? How much hosts I'll be able to have on this network here? Well, you don't even need to work it out because your magic number also tell you the amount of hosts that will be here. So we'll have 64 hosts, you understand? And within 4 networks. Right? In this case now. Right? So your magic number in this case is 64. The number of hosts would be 64 as well, right? And the number I will have 4 networks. Now pay attention here because we still have to talk about the whole concept of usable host too as well, right? So we know that the number is 64, the magic number. This means that is the amount of the numbers that the network would be separated by. So your first network would be your zero network, which will be 192.168.1.0, right? The next one would be 64, right? The next network. What will be your next network? Add 64 again, how much? 128. And then your last network will be 168.1.192, right? So we know we have 4 networks here. So one of the typical questions that you might get in one of the exams, be it CCNA or end of term exam or midterm exam or something like that, what this number represents here. Is it a network address, a broadcast address, or a usable host? Right? And we know that even though that is 2 to the power 6, which is 64 hosts, we know that part of this, one would be used for the network address, and the other one would be used as your broadcast address. So essentially, we only have 62 hosts that are usable. And I'm going to show you what I mean by this. So between 0 to 63, right? 0 is your network address. 63 is your broadcast address. So your usable host will be between 1, right, and 62, correct? Same thing with 64 is between 64 to 127. So 64 will be a network address for this, right, for this network, and 127 will be your broadcast address for the 64 network. Same thing here, 128. This would be your broadcast address, wrong, not your broadcast, your network address, right, for your 128 network, and your broadcast address will be 191. And this one here will go up to 255, right? So your broadcast address will be 255, and your network address will be 192. So one of the questions that we're going to ask you, what is 55? Is it a network address, a broadcast address, right, or a usable host? And this question will be what? Right? What that will be? So we could say off the top of it that this basically is a usable host. Right? Now, this is just a very basic example we just showing here with a /26. What we're going to do now is to get into some more summarized subnetting, right? You know what's summarize? We're going to pull out the sword, right? We're going to make sure that everybody get this thing done. Right? So let's look at the next one, for example. We're going to go up a little higher. So you're going to have to help me. You're going to help me out calculate this thing fast in binary. So somebody start to work out this thing one time. So we're going to have .153, right? And we're going to that /27, right? /27 in this case now. So I was going to take off this. Right? I'm still going to keep up this because I want to be able to use this as an example here, right? And /27 means that we're going to borrow how much bits? 3 bits, right? /27. Y'all work out the 153 for me fast? Work it out for me quickly, right? In binary, right? So we borrow actually 3 bits. Now my question to you all now, what is the magic number? What is the magic number? Huh? What is the magic? Somebody say. 32 is the magic number. Why is 32 is the magic number? Because it's the last borrowed bit, right? So 32 is the magic number. So we're going to just put it up here. Magic number is 32. So you're seeing the importance of the magic number, right? So this magic number also represents, you understand, that is the number of hosts, right, with that network will be able to give. And we know the story about 2 to the power of n minus 2, which is the difference between that -2 would give you 1 broadcast, and the next one would be a network address. So you know in this case, you only have how many? Only 30 usable hosts, right? In this case now, right? So a question can ask now, what network, what is this number here, .153? Is it a network address? A broadcast address? Right? Or what network it belongs to? Is it a usable host? Right? What do? We find out via the magic number, right? So your first network will be what? Right? Your first network will be what? The 0 network, right? So that will be 192.168.1.0. 1.0, which is your first network. Right? Your second network, because 0 is your first network in this case now. Right? Your second network will be what? 32, right? Dot 32, because it's going up by 32 via the magic number. Alright? You like this whole concept of magic number, right? So where's the next one? 32 will be what? 64, right? Because we're going to by 32. Come on, I want you all to help me quickly calculate this. Right? So it goes up by 32. What's the next number? Huh? 96? Come on, say it hard. You know, say it out. You know, 168, right? 192, right? 96. What's the next number? Right? It goes up by 32. What's the next number? Right? 128, right? What's the next number? Plus 32. Come on, somebody's supposed to have a calculator out quickly. 160, right? Right, so we realize now, we could stop here for just for this while, that this 153, we already done pass this network here in this case now. We already done pass this 153 IP address now. So we know it relies on which network? 120? Which one? 128, right? So we know it is in this network here, 128. But let's look at whether or not if it's a broadcast address or a network address or a usable host. So within this 128, we're going straight up to how much? The broadcast address will be what? 159, right? Cool. This same here will be 127, right? This 64 will be what? 95. This 32 will be here, 63. And this 0 will be here, 31. In this case, right? So we know that 153 is a usable host, right? We could say that, and it is in which network? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in the fifth network. Right? You all understanding it? Yeah. Right? So again, how many networks you'll be able to arrive at slash 27? Right? We know that this is 32 hosts, right? But how many networks? How do we know? 2 to the power of what? Of 1, 2, 3. So 2 to the power of 3 gives you how much? 8 networks. So we're supposed to get 8 networks with the magic number of 32, which is a slash 27. So far, so good? Right? So you get 8 networks here because we're borrowing the bits that are going across. And this 5 bits here would be your host bits, which is 2 to the power of 5 here minus 2, because we had to make allocation from your broadcast address and the network address. So let me just give you a typical scenario here. Right? Again, we into summarize subnetting. And some of this stuff here, again, as I told you all, we're going to be addressed in the next course. All right? I'm just doing this video to actually prove myself that I'm good at this stuff. All right? We're going to get it done. Don't worry. Don't worry. You have it. Y'all cool?
Yes, sir.
Y'all understanding this thing. Right. So let me just assume that, let me just take out this number here to the top. There's a typical question that was come in exam too as well. Right? The admin network, right, has, let me say this admin network have 44 users, right? Has 44 users, right? And the teachers, which amongst a lot, network has, let me just work out a number in my head here. 123 users. Typical question I would ask. What would be this proper slash notation, right, to accommodate these networks or be among the users or hosts on these networks? Would it be a slash 24? Would it be a slash 25? Would it be a slash 26? Would it be a slash 27? Or would it be a slash 28? How do we work out this answer here? Right? How do we work out this answer? Right? How do we work out this answer? By obtaining what? First and foremost, the magic number. You see, understand this whole concept of the magic number? You see how sweet this magic number is? Right? So by the time we understand what is the magic number, we would know what is the number of hosts. So we know that slash 24, we have how much hosts? Right? 200 and, because remember that's Classful. Right? So at slash 25, we have how much hosts? Because we just borrow one bit, which is 128. Remember your place values, right? Let me write it up here again. 128.6432, right? 16, 8, 4, 2, and 1. So slash 25, we borrow this one bit here, so it's 128. Right? Slash 26, we just did it just now there. Right? How much hosts? So this will be 2 to the power of 1 here. We'll give you 128 hosts here. One network, basically, in this case here. Right? Slash 26, we just did slash 26, so the magic number here will be what? Right? 64, and how much hosts that we get the last time? Right? The magic number, remember the magic number will give us the number of usable hosts, right? So don't matter, just remember the magic number. So the magic number means the number of usable hosts. In this case, not usable hosts, the number of hosts. My bad. Right? Because we still have the minus 2 now. So this slash 26 is a 64, right? This slash 24 was 27, was 32, right? And slash 28, which brings us to 25, 26, 27, 28, that gives us a 16, right? So looking at this question here now, we know that slash 28 is not appropriate because we have 44 users and all we could get here is how much? 16 hosts. And we know we could only get 14 usable hosts here, right? We know slash 32 it can't work either because the admin network is 44 minimum. We can't say 64. 64 would tantamount to this one here, but it still wouldn't give us enough for the teacher's network. So your best notation would be your slash 25, which is 128, right? And part of that, the usable host would be only 126. Right? 126. So this is a typical question that would come. What would be the proper slash notation, right, for this type of network? Let me try one more now to make sure that we muscle it down, you know? Muscle it. Ah. You know what I'm talking about? We had to make sure and get this thing down because we had to understand this whole concept of subnetting, right? So we're going to lift some weights here right now. We're going to lift some weights. Right? So let me write up a next typical scenario here in terms of, I'm going to use the same concept of the admin network. Right? Admin network is equal to what? 44 users, right? 44 users. Right? Faculty now. Right? Network is, let me say, 60 users. Cool. This songing good. This songing real good. Right? The media network, right, is 22 users, and your library network, right, is 12 users, right? Now, let me do some multiple choice. Would it be, let me say 192.168. In fact, I wouldn't put IP addresses. Let me just put some subnet mask instead. Right? Let me put some subnet mask. Let me just, get this thing in a different scenario for you all. 255.255.255.128. Right? 255.255.255.192. Right? 255.255.255.224. You all know how we get 224, right? We're going to come to that just now. 255.255.255.240 and 255.255.255.248. Right? Now we're going to find out which subnet mask will be able to facilitate this amount of users. Now, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. You all know how I get the .128 on 128. .128 again, same place values. This will be a slash 25. So far, so good? Place values, right? I should not take it off the board, but I'll write it down nevertheless, right? So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? So you put on this one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, fine. This is a slash right? 28. And we know this by the place values, right? Remember the place values. Don't forget that. 128, 64, 32, right? 16, 8, 4, 2, and 1, right? Now, how do we get 192? We have to put on here, which is a 128 plus 64 will give you 192, right? So this here is a slash 26, right? 224. We put on the 32. So 192 plus 32 is how much? 224, right? So this is a slash 27. Check it up, make sure, check it up, double check. Right? 240 will put on here 16. So that is 128 plus 64 plus 32 plus 16 is how much? Right? So this gives us a slash 28. And this one here, 248, we'll put on the 8. So just add on the 8 here, we'll give you a slash 29. Right? So in order for us to determine what would be your best subnet mask here for this particular network is via what? Knowing the magic number. Don't ever forget that, the magic number. I know you're going home tonight just thinking about the magic number. So in this case now, let's look at it now. Right? What is the magic number here? Right? 128 is the magic number. You get it, right? The magic number here is what? 64, right? Right? 128 is the magic number here. 64 is the magic number here. 32 is the magic number here. 16 is the magic number here. And 8 is the magic number here. Right? So, off the bat, we could say the best network or the best subnet, right? It will be which one? Slash 26, which is 64, right? The magic number, which will give us up to how much usable hosts? 62 usable hosts, right? In this case now. So one would be reserved for your broadcast address, and the other one would be reserved for your network address. Let me just see if you're already thinking quick. How many networks you'll get in a slash 26?
8.
Huh?
8.
How many networks? Huh?
8.
Slash 26. Which one is the place value for slash 64?
Four.
Right, 2 to the power of 2 by 4. So always remember that. Right? The place values. Right? In this case here. Right? Cool. So far so good?
Yes, sir.
All right. So as I said before, we really hammering down this thing, and you want to make sure that you all understand this thing. So what if I ask a question now about usable host address? Which one would be a usable host address? Right? In this case now, if I was to put like a couple of IP addresses on the board, and I ask a question, which one would be usable? In fact, I don't even want to say broadcast and network. Which one would be a usable address? Let me just write down some numbers here, and you're going to work it out here quickly for me. Right? The next question that has always come in for exams. Right? Which one is a usable host? I'm going to put it here. Which one of these IP addresses here is a usable, right? Usable host. Usable host. So I'm going to write down some numbers here. All right? 192.168.1.224, right? Slash 28. Right? 192.168.1.47 slash 28. So I'm going to just keep it at slash 28 right through. So start working it out one time in your head. 192.168.1.160, right? Slash 28 again. And I would put this last number as 192. And this will be a slash 28. 168.1.192.1. So let me just rub off this stuff in the background here, right? At the bottom here, right? Now your task is to find out which one here is a usable host, right? You're going to hammer this down. You're going to make sure that you all understand this thing, right? Muscle it down. You understand? You're muscling this thing. I'm telling you, we got to understand this stuff, right? What's the first thing we'll do here first? Get what? To find out the magic number, right? So we know it's slash 28. What is slash 28? Right? So this 25 here, 26, 27, 28. Right? What is this here? In the 16th place. So that is the magic number, right? So the networks will go up by 16. Now, our next question I should ask, so the magic number is 16. Right? Now, all right, I'll come back to that next number in a little while. The next question I was going to ask, I was going to tell you about what network that number would be in now, but I want to do something else pertaining to that now. So we know the magic number is 16. So off the bat, we could know that if the magic number is 16, how much hosts would be available on that network? Right? It's how much?
8.
No?
2 to the power.
64.
Nope. Yeah, we know the magic number is 16. So how much bits we borrow? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 to the 4 is 16. So we know the amount of networks that we're supposed to get is 16 networks in this case. That are 16 hosts. Right? So we have to find out which one of these numbers is a usable host. So let's move up now. Get your calculators out. So your first network would be what? 0, right? Your second network would be 16. What would be your next network? 16. 32. Next one? 48. Go ahead. We had to get 16 of these, eh? That's the only way you know. Right? Let's go. Right? Because we had to know which one is a usable host here. So we had to go right up to the top. Right? 80. What's the next number? 80 is the next number? 64, right? My bad. At least you know all the working here. 80. Go ahead. 96, right? Go ahead. 112, What's up?
128.
128, I see all your working, right? 16, go ahead. 144, right? Go ahead.
160.
160, right? Cool. So let's come down on this side here. Go ahead. What's the other one?
176.
Right, 176. I seen somebody here. 192. Well, I remember this one off the top of my head. What's the other one? 208, right? Well, we're in 207 here, but this is 208. Right, 224. What's the other one? Right? 240, right? 240. 240. Cool? That is it, right?
Yes.
And by the way, your subnet is really 255.255.240 in this case now, when it comes to adding up your place values here, right? Cool. Right. I'm gonna use our next color now. Right? Let me use some red. So we understand where all the networks on them lie. The next thing now for us to do is to get the broadcast address before we start even right? Find out which one of them is a usable host. So let's go. So your broadcast address here would be 17, right? It goes 0 to 17? Wrong, 0 to 15. Right. Just make sure that you're not sleeping on me here now. This would be 16 to 31. This would be 47. This would be 63. This would be 79, 95, 11, right? 127, 143, 159, 175, 191, 207, right? So we're in 207 here, right? Right? 223, 239, and right. So let's work out now which one of these hosts is a usable host. Right. 224. Nah. So this question is wrong. This is a network address. Right? 47. Where 47 is? Woo! Broadcast address is not a usable host here. 160. Where's 160? Seen 160?
Yes,
Seen it? That is a network address. So there's not a usable host. 192. Where's 192? A network address. So your answer for this one here is none of the above. You understand? Those are the kind of questions that it'll give, and it'll be so tricky to select it. But basically, that answer would be none of the above, because none of them is usable host. If you could see from this demonstration here, they are either network or broadcast address. I'm going to give you our next one now to work out here. And then we're going to real muscle it down. In fact, we should muscle it down for more now. Right? How are we looking so far? Is understandable? You're all excited to go to network management one?
Yes, sir.
Real excited? Nice course. The best course in the whole school. Trust me. Right. So far, we have only been doing classless on the C side. Let me get a little difficult. Let me get a little difficult here. So we have 110, right? We're going to do an example of a class A here. 8.67.105, right? Or 101, I should say. And we will make this as /15. I'm going with even a harder one here, to be honest. Right? Even a harder one. Difficult one. Right? Let's write out the binary representation first to find out the magic number. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This off. And the rest? Right? Is it? Right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fine. That is off. Cool. So this is your /15 here. What is your magic number here, people? 2. So we identify this as your magic numbers 2. Right? So, what is this number here? A network number, a broadcast number, or a usable host? That's what we have to find out. Which one is this? Let's check out the networks now. So your first network would be a 110.0, because it's class A, .0.0, right? Your second network would be 110.2.0.0, because this is class A. Remember, this is the octave at interest here, right? The octave at interest, the second one. The next one will be 110, because you're going up by 2.4.0.0 says all this would be host. We look at it just now, right? 110. That was the other one. 6.0.0, right? And then 110.8.0.0, right? You chop the 8 there now. Let's do one more. 110.10.0.0. So this 110.8.0, we'll find that number inside here. This is your network address. This goes up to how far up? Check it. 110.9.255.255. You seeing it now? In class A? Yeah. Same thing we could also do for class B. Right? So what that number is? A usable host. Right? In this case. Right? So that is basically a small introduction to the subnetting. Alright? Any questions before I take my pretty self off the camera? Huh? Alright? So the videos are up, so you can look at it again, learn something new. It will be up on Facebook soon. Well, on YouTube, on my channel. And you could always refer to it. I'm going to come again following week, next week. We will focus on class B, which is a lot of questions that's come on the exam, basically on class B and class C, just to make sure that we muscle along this subnetting, this whole idea of subnetting properly. Thanks very much for your undivided attention.